Okay, so question number one says that XYZ Auditors is a medium-sized audit firm that has been operating for over 15 years. The firm has a diverse client base that includes small and micro enterprise, non-profit organizations, and publicly listed companies. Recently, XYZ Auditors experienced the following issues that indicate deficiencies in the quality management system. The firm faced regulatory scrutiny and legal actions due to a significant audit failure that involved a public listed client, Beta Limited. The regulatory scrutiny revealed material misstatements in the financial statement that were not detected during the audit process. Several cases were reported where auditors had close relationship with key personnel of clients, organization, likely compromising the auditor's independence and objectivity. Meanwhile, many audit staffs had not received sufficient training on recent changes in audit standards and new regulatory requirements. The firm often struggled with resource allocation, resulting in audit staff overburdened and rushed audit, which lead to the quality of audit being compromised. Inconsistencies in audit documentation coupled with lack of sufficient audit evidence to support conclusion reached in several audit engagements was also noted. The above issues have prompted the firm's top management to consider implementing ISQM-1 to enhance their quality management system and address the deficiency. Analyze 6 components of ISQM-1 that XYZ auditors should focus on to address the issues raised to comply with the standard. Now, basically, these guys are setting this question from quality management. Now, what happens is that audit firms are required by IASB to have quality management processes or systems on the ground, right? So what happens is that we normally have a quality management system that should be implemented by firms, which is called ISQM-1. Before, it used to be called ISQC, that is International Standards on Quality Control. But now, it was reviewed and changed to International Standards on Quality Management. That is how it is called. It is required by IAASB. You know this one? International Auditing and Assurance Standards Board. The board came up with a standard that audit firms need to follow so that we ensure that the quality of report is of the required level. We are going to give report after audit, but that report should be of the right quality. Now, there are processes that needs to be undertaken. Now, from the firm level, to ensure that we have quality work, we need to ensure a few things. So let's look at the things that should be done from the firm level. Number one, audit firm level. Number one, the audit firm needs to train their staff. So trainings. Number two, selection of the audit team. Selection of the audit team. Audit team should be done to ensure that proper selection is done. That ensures that we only select people who have experience. After selecting them, we train them. We should also ensure that the governance, the directors, or we call them the partners of the firm, should ensure that they always emphasize on quality work. They create an environment where people compete to do a good job, all right? They also need to ensure that there is ethical standards. People adhere to the ethical standards at the workplace or when they're doing their job. So that's number 4, adherence to ethical standards. So this one, governance should ensure that there is that attitude of having quality work, adherence to ethical standards. Those are some of the things that they need to do, right? And also review of the work that is being done, especially if the work is being performed by trainees or staffs who are not yet matured or well qualified. For example, you can be called to go and work in audit firm. You have never worked before. You have to start from somewhere. So when you're being trained, you need to be supervised and your work needs to be reviewed in a way that enhances the quality of the report. Now, what we are saying is that the standard came up with what is called components. The examiner can call them components or elements that gives you guidelines on areas that you need to focus on. Those elements are actually going to take care of these things that will ensure that there are quality of work. When we talk about ethical standards, what are we trying to mean? When we talk about the ethical standards, what do we mean? We mean that the firm needs to ensure that the team that they are having is competent. So we're talking about competency. The team is very competent. We talk about objectivity, and objectivity means that the auditor is able to perform the audit with an open mind, very focused. When you talk about competency, we are talking about the ability to perform the work as required, right? You don't lie to the client. You don't do things that are not right. You ensure that you have the capacity and the ability to perform the work. And then we talk about now objectivity, right? Those are ethical standards. Then we also talk about confidentiality. The auditor needs to ensure that the client's work remains confidential. You are going to meet a lot of information from the client. This kind of standard ensures that those information that you find at the client premises remains there. They remain confidential. You don't go and tell people outside. We are also talking about the professional behavior. Professional behavior. So that means that you need to behave yourself in a way that carries or raises the level, the name of the profession. Yani unainua jina ya profession. You make the profession remain respected, right? Don't behave in a way that people will start wondering whether you are really an auditor. The way you behave, the way you talk, the way you mingle with clients. And when we talk about professional behavior, we are talking about a situation where you are able to make the client feel like you're not independent, or somebody who has knowledge feel like you're not independent. So the next thing is independency. And as you can see, we are being told from the question that some of the staffs of the staffs in this audit firm were able to mingle with clients, meaning that they were not independent. They were not behaving professionally. And so that means that they are going against the ethical standard, which you need to adhere with. Look at what they are saying. They are saying that many audit staff are not, that is about training. You can see that there is a problem with training here, right? So that means that we are not ensuring the ethical controls. Training, they lack, right? In the first instance. So let's look at another one. So we are being told that loopholes are here. The first thing is that several cases were reported where auditors had close relationship with key personnel of client's organization. So when you have close relationship with the client that you are auditing, you are the auditor and you have close relationship with the client, that means that you are breaching some of these issues. Number one, you are not going to be dependent because the client or the staffs that you are auditing are your friend. You are not going to be objective. You are not going to be focused because you are going to favor one person. You are not going to remain professionally behaved. And that is the risk. So what we are saying is that you have not adhered to the ethical standard. And this is one of the things that you need to do to ensure that there is quality control. The next thing we are being told that the client staffs, the audit staffs lack training. That is also a question that casts doubt on the quality of the work that you're going to give, right? The next one, we are being told that the firm struggle with resource allocation, resulting to audit staff being overburdened. That is another thing. You cannot share and you cannot have a good report or a good work done when you don't have resources. Ni kama umetuma mtu aende shambani lakini hakuna jembe, right? Lazima umpe resources. So we are saying, for us to ensure quality control, we need to have sufficient resources in terms of the system, in terms of the capacity building, like the staff training. We need to have people who have different skills. We need to ensure that we have resources in terms of the numbers. We have money to spend in terms of transport. We don't want a situation where you send your audit team to go and audit in Eldoret or to go and audit in Mombasa, but the team cannot even buy lunch. They can't even afford meals because you don't have resources. You don't have money. They can't even afford meals. So they are now at the mercy of the client. They are asking for tips to be given ndio waweze kukula. Hata hawezi lala place poa, wanalala kama chokora. That one will impair the work that you're doing, because once this person does not have enough resources to perform the work, they are struggling. That means that they are not going to be objective. That means that they now start depending on the client, and that will bring issues to do with professional behavior. We don't want an auditor mwenye ameparara na anatembea kama chokora, right? Lakini ni kazi anafanya. That is not fine, and that is why we are saying that part of the quality control, ensure that you give these people what they deserve, such that they don't lack anything, the resources, the system, the money. Do a good budget, right? Do a good training, so that these people don't have a situation where they are lacking. We are also seeing that inconsistency in audit documentation coupled with lack of sufficient audit evidence to support conclusion reached in several audits. And this is what we are saying. When we talk about review, what are you reviewing? You are trying to check that the documentation are actually in line with the audit opinion or conclusion. When you give audit report, when you are giving audit report or conclusion, you need to ensure that that report can actually be supported with the evidence that you have. And that is why we are saying that there should be a review. Number 5, thorough review. You are reviewing the work to ensure that everything that you've touched is actually supported. And most importantly, the high-risk areas are also looked into. So that's why today, the audit of today is performing what is called a risk-based audit. We do what is called risk-based audit, meaning that you need to select areas that are high risk. You are able to check, so that you don't have a situation where after you've done an audit, ndio sasa habari inatokelezea, unasikia ati, oh, you know, this company, there is a fraud that happened. How comes you didn't see something that could have been seen? Because you didn't perform risk-based audit, and because you didn't have enough supporting evidence to support your conclusion, right? So that's why we are saying that part of the quality control need to have those elements. I want us now to give you briefly. And of course, all this will mean that is why they are saying in number 1, that the firm face regulatory scrutiny. Yani ISPAC wamewavamia. They have regulatory scrutiny and legal actions due to significant audit failure. They fail that involved a publicly listed company. The regulatory scrutiny revealed material misstatement in the financial statement that were not detected during the audit process. They cannot detect if they didn't have enough food, if they didn't have enough resources, if they didn't have enough training, if they had a good relationship with the client, such that they were compromised. Objectivity and independency was compromised. They can't be able to detect such kind of errors. We are being told that analyze 6 components of International Standards on Quality Management, ISQM1, that the audit firm should focus on as they try to adopt the international standard to address the issues that were raised above to comply with the standard. So let's look at this. I want you to write them down, the elements of ISQM1. Say elements of ISQM1. Elements of ISQM1 that the examiner wanted. Elements of ISQM1. They can be elements or components. Elements or components. elements or components. Elements of ISQM1. Elements of ISQM1. Number one, the farm risk assessment process. Risk assessment process, that is the first one. Risk assessment process. We are saying that the farm needs to design the procedures that can help them, or they need to implement risk assessment process that will be able to ensure quality of the report, and they are able to understand the risk exposures. Sorry, sorry. So I hope that you written that is the first one. We are saying that the farm needs to have a risk assessment process that is able to identify the areas or the environment where the client is operating. When we talk about risk assessment procedure, you are assessing the risk on the client, and you can also assess the risk on your side. The most important thing is to understand the client's situation, the area of operation, the environment, the risk exposures, and the mitigation they are put in place. So you need to identify which risk is the client exposed to, how can that risk be prevented, what are they doing currently to prevent that kind of risk. That is on the client side. On your side, you need also to perform risk assessment on your side. As you onboard the client, you need to ask yourself, do you have the right qualification? Do you have the right staffs who have the right experience? Are you having the capacity to perform that work? Do you think that the client that you're going to audit can expose you to problem? Do they have the right integrity? So that as you take on the client, you're not exposing yourself, but you're also able to have the client on the areas where they're getting exposed to. The next one is governance and leadership. We are saying that, so this is number one. Number two is governance and leadership. You remember what I told you, that the tone at the top, in the audit firm, the audit firm leaders or the partners need to demonstrate commitment to quality management. They need to ensure that there is a culture of quality competition where people are competing to give a good report. So firms need to create an environment which demonstrates a commitment to quality through its cultures and recognizes the role they serve in the public. The firm needs to know the role they are serving to the public, and they need to know that it is their mandate to ensure that they give information that is true and accurate. They also need to ensure that the team that they are having have been trained and led by example. You know, as a CEO, you need to lead by example. Tell people that you cannot accept a bribe. You cannot be very close to the client. You cannot ignore this. You need to always keep on training. So the responsibility of the firm actually vary. There is a responsibility that individual team can carry. There is individual responsibility that the partners need to know they take as partners. And that is why Audit firms can never be limited companies. Audit firms are always partnership or sole proprietorship, so that they have the owners and the firm being one and the same thing. The owners and the firm being one and the same thing to carry responsibility. So the governance and leadership should actually look at that. The next one is relevant ethical requirements. I've talked about the ethical standards. We need to ensure relevant ethical requirements are there too. The next one, I've talked about that, so I won't go through that again. The next one is acceptance and continuous of client relationship. As you accept the client, you need to ask yourself whether the right procedure has been followed. Acceptance and continuous of client relationship. When we talk about acceptance, we are saying that by the time you are accepting client to be the auditor or consultant, have you ever thought about the exposures? Have you ever thought about the relationship? Have you ever thought about the ability to perform the work? But again, relationship change. Maybe that client was not your friend, was not your relative. But then as you continue with audit, we are talking about continuance. Inamaanisha wakati bado unaendelea na kazi, maneno inaweza change. Unaweza realize that that client who was never your relative has become your in-law, your son, your daughter, your sister, and even yourself has actually gotten into a relationship with a client or client relative. So things can change. That is why by the time you are accepting, that is the initial acceptance, you need to look at the relationship. But even as you continue, you need to also check on the changes. So you need to put emphasis to check that there's no such kind of relationship. It can be the normal relationship, the social relationship. It can also be business relationship. So for us to ensure that we maintain integrity, we maintain ethical values, we have the ability to perform the work, we need to always look at our relationship, even with the existing client. Existing business relationship should be reassessed at the start of each year to check that when we are being reappointed, we are still able to perform the work. So this may mean that you need to perform identity checks. Check if the client has employed a new person who happens to be a relative. Maybe the time you are doing the audit for the first time, hakukuwa na relationship, but then there is a new CEO who has joined the firm or has joined the client, who is now your relative or finance manager. The next one is engagement performance. Engagement performance. The way you are now performing the engagement itself. Engagement performance means performance of the audit work. Performance of the audit work. So you need to understand the responsibility of placed on you as an auditor as far as the quality of the work is concerned. You need to think about the experience of the people that you're having. You need to look at the audit evidence. You need to look at to ensure that there is close supervision. So this is where you need to supervise the team. You need to train the team. You need to ensure that the team performs the work and has got the right audit documentation that support the conclusion. So this is the actual execution of the audit work. Actual execution of the audit work. Actual execution of the audit work. So the team needs to ensure that they employ the high level of professional skepticism, meaning they have the ability to doubt anything that will bring problems. You are able to look at things with a third eye. You are able to look at things with a third eye, right? The next one is resources. We talked about resource allocation, and I know that this one is very important. You need to ensure that the team have got enough resources that can allow them perform the work well. Of course, the last one is information and communication. The way you pass information, the way you talk to client. So this one requires you to ensure that the information that you're getting from the client, the information that you're sending to the client, the information that you're keeping for the client are actually confidential, right? So it considers information and communication that can be pervasive. You know, the information that if it goes out, it can actually cause problem. So the full information that you have should always be kept confidential. Such information should not be sent out, only to the appropriate people. So the last one is information, and communication. Thank you so much. That should be the end of our today's revision. If you think that you like our classes, you love our classes, and you want to join us, all right, online classes, please WhatsApp me on this, and of course we will be able to give you, we'll be able to add you in our WhatsApp group. There is a different WhatsApp group for those who are paid, different WhatsApp group, like Matunda here class already. So I'm talking to Beryl because Beryl battle, but Matunda class. Beryl, you can WhatsApp me on this. We'll give you the pay bill, pay and join class. Sasa, we have timetable. We run classes twice a week. And mostly we are focusing on helping you understand the question and know how to answer the question. Sasa, so that exam ikifika, everything iko sambamba. So that's our number. We only charge you 3,500. That is offer rate ending tomorrow, 3,500. Any question? Any comment? I hope I've utilized the 30 minutes you gave me. So thank you so much. Let's meet again next time or in class, most likely in class. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.